Okay, Shalom Aleichem and welcome back, everyone. What a week. As we're entering Shabbat, Parshat Tzav, Shabbat HaGadol, Bez Hashem, She'yavo Aleinu, Pesach should come to us, the Simcha, with a lot of joy. We should be Zocheh to the actual Geula, Bez Hashem. But for now, let us prepare for Shabbat by looking at our Parashat Tzav. The Parasha starts off, Tzav et Aharon ve'et banav. Tzav is a very powerful word. Tzav means command. Command. Aharon and his children. And what does the Torah start to talk about? The Torah talks about the Korban Olah. Korban Olah is a Korban that goes completely to Hashem. Almost everything goes to Hashem. Nothing is eaten by the people, aside for the skin that could be used for benefit. Everything else goes up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then the pasuk right after the Korban Olah, the parasha starts to talk about Veherim et Hadeshen, which means to clean the Mizbeach by taking off the ashes. Every single day, they have to take a little bit of ashes off the Mizbeach. So the parasha starts off, Tzav, command Aharon, about the Olah, about the Korban that goes completely to Hashem. And then immediately afterwards, the parasha starts to talk about cleaning the Mizbeach. What's the connection? So here, he says that once someone came to the Stipler Gaon. Everybody knows about the Stipler Gaon. The Stipler Gaon was Chaim Kanevsky's father, Rabbi Yaakov Kanevsky. He was an Adam Tzaddik. He was a big Gadol. Right? The stories about him when he was in the Russian army and how he survived. He wasn't Mechal Shabbat. He never ate something that was not kosher. Big Tzaddik, big Gaon. One day, a young man from the Koel comes to the Stipler Gaon. And he tells the Stipler Gaon, I have a problem. So what's the problem? He says, every Friday when I come home, after learning in the yeshiva, the house is a mess. Bardak. Everything is everywhere. I can't. My whole mind is all confused. I can't learn. I can't understand. I can't prepare for Shabbat. My wife doesn't know how to keep a clean house. What should I do? I want to become a Talmid Chacham, but the way my wife runs that house, there's no chance. So the Stipler Gaon said back to him, you really want to know what to do? The man said, yes, please, tell me. What did the Stipler Gaon say? He said to him, take a broom. Take a broom. If you come home and there's a mess, clean it. Think about it for a second. The Torah is telling us, the Kohanim, they have to dress up and they have to clean the Mizbeach. Right after talking about the Korban Olah that goes completely to Hashem, the next thing that we speak about is about cleaning the Mizbeach. Why? That's exactly the reason. The Chovat HaLevavot says, there are some people who think, I've reached a certain stage. I'm a special dude. I'm a special guy. I have a special status. Cleaning now is beneath me. First of all, yes, you might be special, but that doesn't mean you can't clean up. I remember before my father opened up the shul in Borough Park, we used to pray sometimes, Friday nights, we used to pray in Shomrei Shabbat in Borough Park, Shomrei Shabbos, one of the first minyanim, the early Plag Mincha, Erev Shabbat. I remember my father used to come. If you know my father loves to start everything early. Like Shaharit early, Mincha. Everything is as early as you can start, that's when he starts. Okay? So he loved to start Shabbat early. But not only that, he used to come to the shul early. It's not his shul, not our shul. And he used to come to Shomrei Shabbat. He used to learn with somebody there. He was an old Bukharian guy who wanted to learn Aleph Bet. Before he had a synagogue. He was young at that time. Young guy, wasn't even bar mitzvah yet. And it was an old Bukharian guy that wanted to learn how to read Aleph Bet. He was already in his senior years. And my father would sit with him Fridays and teach him Aleph Bet. But not only that, before he came, my father used to come with us. And we used to come, and they had the special tablecloth they used to put on the tables. But sometimes they were dirty. They had coffee stains, schmuffy stains. My father didn't work for that shul. But he used to come in, and when he came in and he saw the stains, what did he do? He didn't sit down and learn. He came, he took paper towels, made hot water, soap, something, and he came and he cleaned off a few tables that were next to him. This way people can come and see a clean table. You're not, once you reach a special stage, you think, I can't clean. I can't do these things. You can pick up a broom. After bringing the Korban Olah, you come so close to serving Hashem that everything is entirely for Hashem. And the next thing, the Torah immediately tells us that you can do regular work too. I remember just HaGadol, when I was working at Maimonides as a night nurse manager, sometimes the environmental staff, the staff that cleans the rooms, didn't come by. And the garbages would pile up. Now, I'm the manager. I'm not supposed to clean garbages. But on the other hand, if the garbages overflow in the room, I'm going to get complaints. So what did I do? I became a garbage man. There I am in my lab coat. I came with my lab coat. I come and I'm cleaning out the room. And the patients and the family say, I didn't mean for you to do it. Because they complain to me. I say, it's okay. My job here is to make sure that you get what you need. Right? And that's the way we're supposed to see it. There's a job. It needs to get clean. So you clean it. Doesn't make a difference who you are. Now, obviously, if you see an Adam Gadol cleaning, right, you should say, excuse me, I got it. I'll take care of it. That's one thing. But the Adam Gadol shouldn't think that I'm beyond this or above this. And that's really the ideal. It's really an attitude it's the perspective. What's your attitude towards the mitzvah? If a shul needs to get clean, it's a mitzvah to clean it. The house needs to get clean. It's a mitzvah to clean it. This is coming right at a beautiful time. You're at Pesach now, right? And we're getting ready for Pesach. And we're cleaning up. And some people think, my wife's department, not my department. That's wrong. It's our department. It's our house. We're getting ready for Pesach. The mitzvah is to get ready. We got to do what we got to do. Once, Reb Chaim Shmulevitz was giving a shiur in the yeshiva. And one of his friends from Shanghai, they were learning in the Mir Yeshiva in Shanghai before they came to Yerushalayim, before they came to Eretz Yisrael. One of his friends that were learning with him there came to the Mir Yeshiva in Yerushalayim, listened to the shiur, and after the shiur, Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, the Rosh Yeshiva invited him to his house. And they came back to his house, and he told his wife, my friend from the old days is here. And the wife came and started serving different foods. She gave soup or something to them. And Reb Chaim Shmulevitz started eating the soup. And he finished the soup so fast. And then he tells his wife, Rebbitzin, can you please give me another bowl? No. He finishes it again, quick. And he says, Rebbitzin, can I please another bowl? And he does it again, the fourth bowl. So this time his friend says to him, Reb Chaim, I wouldn't say anything to you. You're Rosh Yeshiva, but I know you from back in the day. Right? You never ate so much. What happened all of a sudden that you're eating? Chaim Shmulevitz says, I'll explain it to you. When I give a shiur in the yeshiva, how I love it after the boys come up and they ask me questions about it, and we talk about it, and we discuss it, and it becomes something that people keep talking to me about. Oh, the shiur was great, and I have this point, this ha'ara, that chakira, these different ideas. I love it. He says the same thing with my wife. My wife makes the soup. I say I love it. How do I say I love it? I keep asking her to give me more. You have to know your perspective. You have to have your attitude towards what's a mitzvah? How is a mitzvah? There's a famous maaseh, the famous story that happened with Reb Mordechai Gifter, Zecher Tzadik Lebracha, Rosh Yeshiva of Telsh. There was a young man, a young kollel man, who came to his Rosh Yeshiva. He told the Rosh Yeshiva, we're having a lot of Shalom Bayit problems in the house. So the Rosh Yeshiva says, what's causing the Shalom Bayit problems? I already said bracha. So the man said, listen, every time my wife fills up the garbage bag, she asks me to take it out. I'm a yeshiva man. I'm a kollel guy. I wear a hat. I wear a jacket. I'm going in a kollel. I have my svarim in one hand, and she wants me to take out the garbage. It's not right. It's wrong. It shouldn't be done. And the Mordechai Gifter said, you're right. I'll take care of this problem. When do you usually take out the garbage? So he said, on Wednesday mornings, let's say, the Mashal. Wednesday mornings at 7 a.m. He says, okay. Everyone knows the story. 7 o'clock, on the door, there's a knock to this man's house, this kollel man's apartment. Standing at the front door is the Rosh Yeshiva of Mordechai Gifter. He says, what are you doing here? He says, I came to take out the garbage. You have a problem taking out the garbage? You think it's not fitting a koil man to take out the garbage? So I'll do it, Rosh Hashiva. So he says, no, Rosh Hashiva, I didn't mean for you to do it. I'll do it. It's okay. Rosh Hashiva said, no, I'm here to do it. Get me to take it out. Went back and forth. But the man understood. The man finally understood. Doing these menial chores doesn't make it, it's not something that's you can't do. No, it doesn't matter how great you are. There's stuff that have to get done. You eat, you gotta use the bathroom afterwards. You gotta clean up after yourself. That's just the way life is. And there's nothing to be embarrassed of. And not only that, it's a mitzvah to do it. You do the right idea. Your house has to be clean. You want to grow up. You want to have a nice hygiene for your health. It should smell nice. So it's a mitzvah. It should be a place that you can raise children. You got to clean it up. There's no reason why you should say no. And you shouldn't feel down to it. Talked about the Olah, and right after the Olah is talking about cleaning up. So that's lesson number 1 for this week's Parshat. Lesson number 2. Let's move on to lesson number 2. Right after it talks about taking off the ashes from the Mizbeach, the Pasuk says you got to take it outside. Ufashad begadam, he takes off his lalash begadim aharim, takes off his clothing. He puts on different clothing. Now he takes out these ashes and he puts it outside the camp. The Pasuk says he takes off his clothing and he puts on new clothing. Right? He takes off his clothing from the work and the Mishkan and he puts on different clothing. There is by the Hasidim, there's a story that they say there was a man, a Rav David Tzvi Chaim. He was a Lubavitcher Chassid, and he came to see the Rebbe, Harav Shmuel of Lubavitch. And he came late, and he was standing outside the study, and he wanted to ask the Rebbe a question, but he was waiting there. But the Rebbes, they have what's called Yechidus. Yechidus means Yechidut, which means private time. They see people one by one, and they talk to them. And the Rebbe had a gabbai. And after every hour that the Rebbe was with people, listening and talking to them, he had the gabbai bring him a new set of clothing. Because the Rebbe's clothing became very, very sweaty. He perfused a lot of sweat and became very wet, and every hour he had to change it. So this Rav David Tzvi Chaim, was sitting outside the study, and the Gabbai was coming with new clothing for the Rebbe. And the Gabbai sees Reb Chaim, and he says to Reb Chaim, he says, I don't understand. Why every hour the Rebbe sweats so much? Why is he sweating? Why does he have to change his clothing every single hour? So Reb David Tzvi Chaim didn't have an answer. He didn't say anything. Who knows why the Rebbe is perspiring so much? Maybe he's sick. I don't know. And he kept asking and asking and asking and asking. Tell me. And finally, the Rebbe hears this. And the Rebbe comes out. And he says to this Gabbai, you're dismissed. I don't want you to work for me anymore. I'll pay you every week, the same price that I've been paying you, but you're not working for me anymore. And he says, by the way, why is it so difficult for you to understand why I have to change my clothing every hour? He says, let me tell you, the Rebbe says, people come to me with problems. And they ask me for my advice. And they ask me for beracha. How could I really understand their problem if I don't take off my clothing and put on their clothing? Or like we say, to walk in someone else's shoes. The Rebbe was saying, I go into them. I feel their pain. Every single person who comes with a problem, I become them when they're talking to me. I feel their pain and I feel their anxiety and I feel their problems. Then I start to sweat. And after an hour of talking to a couple of people, I'm already full of sweat. And not only that, after I listen to all their problems, I have to figuratively switch my clothing back to my Rebbe's clothing to be able to give them advice now. That's why every hour I have to change my clothes. I'm sweating from hearing and being them and feeling their pain. This Rabotai if you think about it, is a powerful story. How a Torah leader must emphasize and he has to empathize with those around him. When people come, a lot of times we just listen, and we go on. We go on to do what we have to do. But maybe the pasuk is telling us, Ufashat et begadav, take off the clothing, v'lavash begadim ahirim, and put on other people's clothing. You want to feel the Kohen who's ohev shalom verodev shalom, someone who pursues peace, right? Someone who loves peace and pursues peace. How do you pursue peace and love peace? You have to really be in it. You have to really feel someone else's pain. Sometimes, speaking as someone in the medical field, a lot of times, us medical professionals, I'll speak for myself at least, we become somewhat cold to people's pain. So every time someone comes into the hospital, right, if you're going to break down and feel their pain, you're not going to be able to function and do your job as a nurse, as a doctor, whatever it is. You have to build a certain resistance to the pain to be able to do your job. But the pasuk is telling us that maybe that's not always a good thing. Maybe sometimes it is a good thing. But especially Torah leaders, Kohanim, the rabbis, people who want to feel someone else's pain, the way to do that is to go and be them. Take off your clothing, put on their clothing, meaning put on their pains, understand it as best as you can. Now you may never be able to understand someone else's pain, but at least try it. And then you'll be able to feel that. Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, once a young couple came to him. For years, over 15 years, they've been trying to have a baby. And they weren't able to. And they tried everything, went to doctors, rabbis, everybody. They came to Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach and they were crying. Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, listen. Heard everything that they did. He said, give me a few minutes, let me think about it. He went into his study, and after about half an hour, he came out, and he said to them, I thought about it, I'm very sorry, there's nothing I can do to help. And the couple started breaking down even more. And they went home to their apartment. And a few hours later, they were shocked to see Rav Shlomo Zalman was there. Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. He knocks on their door, they open up, he comes and he says, listen, I could not help you, right? But there's no reason that I cannot come and sit and cry together with you. He came into their apartment, and as they were crying, he cried with them. Sometimes you can't help, but you still can feel their pain. You can cry with them. You can be there with them. And they say, we had one story from Chaim Shmulevitz, a second story from Chaim Shmulevitz, Zechat Tzadik L'Bracha, when Chaim Shmulevitz's youngest son was getting married, and everyone was preparing for the wedding. The Rosh Yeshiva, Chaim Shmulevitz, took time off to meet with a bachur, a student in the yeshiva, who was one of the older boys, who had a very hard time finding a shidduch, wasn't able to find anyone, his match. And the Rav Chaim spent an entire hour speaking, encouraging, and guiding him. And he continued talking to him until he had to go to the monit, to the taxi, to go to the wedding hall. And he tells him, Rav Chaim tells the bachar, he says, today I'm marrying off my youngest son. I'm very happy today. But I want to share that joy with you. I'm still thinking about you. Even though it's a happy day for my son, I don't forget your pain. I'm thinking about you. I'm davening for you. And hopefully one day we'll be able to join in your simcha as well. This is the idea, Rabotai. This is what the pasuk is telling us. Sometimes this is what we have to do. We have to take off our clothing and put on someone else's clothing to feel their pain. For our final lesson in this week's Parshat, we have as follows. In the pasuk later on, we learn about notar, right? Notar, the pasuk says, we're going to go to Perek Zayin, pasuk Yud Zayin, and the pasuk says, "Vanotar mebasar hazavach b'yom hashlishi ba'esh yisaref." Notar is korban meat from the korban that went past its expiration date. Right? Every korban has a certain date that you need to eat it by, It went past its expiration date. Since it went past its expiration date, it becomes notar and you have to burn it. What is the lesson of notar? What is the idea of something being notar that you can't use it? Well, the Sefer HaChinuch tells us the purpose is that after a few days of meat, especially back in the old days, there was no refrigeration. It spoiled. You're eating carbon meat. It has to be meat that is, befitting to be korban meat. You don't want to, take, spoiled meat and this is for God and this is for the korban. It has to be the best. And so since meat becomes stale after a certain time, becomes spoiled, that is the idea the Sefer Chinuch explains. But there's another idea that's a basic concept in Judaism. The concept, the importance of bitachon. Belief. I'm going to, instead of saying belief, I want to not redefine, but give it a better definition of reliance on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, that's what bitachon means. To rely on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What happens? A person has meat, and he can say, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to have meat tomorrow. Well, I don't know if I'm going to have food the next day. So I'm going to eat a little bit now, and I'll save for the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. The idea here, notar, when its prescribed time is done, you got to burn it because why? You can't eat anymore? Because there's a time that you have it right now. Now you eat it. You don't worry about tomorrow. You don't worry about the next day. Why don't worry about the next day? Very good. He said like the man. Avi said like the man. That was the whole idea of the man. You get today and don't worry about tomorrow. There's people I always meet these people. They always tell me, they're always thinking about tomorrow. You have to think about tomorrow, but not to that extreme. Let me tell you. I'll tell you a true story. A guy tells me, Mosh, I'm not going to college because I'm going to get married. Are you dating anyone? No. You seeing him? No. I'm going to get married. I'm going to have to stop my college and I need it and that. Till today, he's still not married. It's been what? How many years since then? Almost 18 years. And the guy's still not married. Didn't go to college, didn't get a degree, didn't do nothing. He's just hanging around. He's not doing anything. That's my idea. I'm trying to say, forget about tomorrow. Worry about now. And that's the idea. Right now you have from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You have it, you're good. Tomorrow is another day. And you're relying on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You have bitachon HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to give you. That's how you prepare for tomorrow. You prepare for tomorrow by relying on Hashem today. Okay? That's the idea. You prepare for tomorrow by relying on HaKadosh Baruch Hu today. Today Hashem's going to take care of me. Tomorrow Hashem's going to take care of me. I have reliance on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm good. There was a story that the great Gaon, Harav Yitzchak Zilberstein, Shlita, shares an amazing story. I might have said it in the past. It's good to hear it again. There was a benevolent king, a really nice guy. And this king wanted to give his subjects an opportunity to get rich. And so he told them, listen, I have a challenge. Here's a pond. It's a very deep pond. I hid a treasure inside. You look in the water, you can see the treasure. Anyone who can get that treasure out, it's theirs to keep. And first came the fastest and bestest swimmers and the deep divers, and everyone started going in, and they couldn't get to the treasure. Then people came with all sorts of gadgets and gizmos, and they couldn't get the treasure. They tried. And then people started saying, this king made a joke of us, he fooled us, he really doesn't like us. And one wise person, one hacham, he comes, and he looks at the pond, he's looking this way and that way, he's looking up, he's looking down. And he tells the king, I have one question for you. Does a person who wants to get this treasure, does he need to go into the water? The king smiles and realizes that he figured it out. And he tells him, no, one need not go into the water or get wet to get this treasure. So immediately, this chacham took a ladder put it on one of the trees, and nestled into the trees, the treasure was hidden in the trees. And the reflection was in the water, and everybody's diving in to get it, and everybody wants to get it inside the water, but it was never in the water. It was up in the trees. This is the same idea. Everybody thinks I have to work for the dollar, I have to work for the thing, I have to do, I have to this, I have to that. And they forgot to look up. They look up, they realize that HaGadol Baruch Hu that gives it. It comes from Hashem. The treasure is right there. You just have to have bitachon in HaGadol Baruch Hu. To what extent does this bitachon go? I mean, this will end up. We'll wrap it up. The story goes over here that during World War II, there was a great tzaddik, Rav Michael Doug Weissmandel. He worked very hard to save Jews, but he needed money to pay the Germans to save Jewish lives. And he at one point, the Jews of Slovakia, he had a chance to save them all, but he needed $100,000 per person. And he tried to raise the funds. And he went to wealthy American Jews and wealthy American Jewish organizations. And they all told him no. It was a very hard time to collect the money. As many people he could save, he saved. But he could have saved more. They said, no, we have to make the state of Israel, we have to do other things, and we need money for there. And they wouldn't spend it on money to save Jews. And after the war, Rav Weissmandel, met with the Lubavitcher Rebbe, second Lubavitcher Rebbe for this week's stories, Harav Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, and he went to Rav Yosef Yitzchak, and he told him, listen, Rebbe, I tried so much. I did. I could have saved more Jews, but they wouldn't give me money. And he broke down, he was crying, and he felt very bad. And Rav Yosef Yitzchak tells him, who do you think made all this happen, that you were unable to collect all that money? You think it was those wealthy Americans, the Zionists who didn't want to support saving Jewish lives? And Rav Yosef Yitzchak told him no. The Lubavitcher Rebbe told him it was all the Yad Hashem. That's called bitachon. Relying on HaKadosh Baruch Hu no matter what the outcome. You know, some people think if I rely on Hashem, everything's going to turn out good. Not necessarily true. If you rely on Hashem, Hashem will take care of you the way you need to. That's how far reliance on HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to go. That you have to believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That everything that happens is from Hashem, and that Hashem can take care of everything. So to quickly review the 3 lessons that we had from this week's Parshat, we had the removing of the ashes of the Mizbeach. No matter who you are, you can still clean, and it's a mitzvah to clean, and it's a mitzvah, and it's all your perspective and attitude. And the second lesson was, sometimes we have to remove our, figurative clothing and get into someone else's clothing to feel their pain and to be able to share with them and help them out. And our third lesson is to have bitachon HaKadosh Baruch Hu. No, Hashem takes care of us. He took care of us. Will take care of us. He took care of the world for so many years, Baruch Hashem. And all the years, people came up with all sorts of ideas. The world is coming to destruction. It's coming to the end. The apocalypse, malachalis, all these things. And Baruch Hu still here's the world, and everybody's good, Baruch Hashem. And this is the bitachon that we have to have. As Hashem, with these ideas, preparing for Pesach, preparing for the Geulah, cleaning ourselves, taking out the hametz. I think one of the special things that we have here in Bayswater, in our section at least, we take out the garbage usually on Friday right before Shabbat. One of the last things that you do is you take it out before Shabbat. If you think about it, it's a great thing. Shabbat, if you read the Shem Yuhud before Kiddush, we say, right now is the time to make tshuva. Right? You're making edut, you're making testimony, you're making kiddush. You have to be clean from every averah. You have to make tshuva when you become an ed. So right before Shabbat, you have another chance. Take out the garbage. Not only the physical garbage, but the garbage that's in you. And that's the idea of Pesach. And that's the idea of getting rid of the hametz. Is to get rid of all the garbage from you. And that's how you're going to be zochet to have bitachon HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And if you're zochet to the Gula Shalem Shabbat Shalom Lekulam.